Hi everyone, welcome back to The Learning Gardener. If you haven't been here before, my name is Pip and welcome to my garden. We are checking in on the chickies because about 4 or 5 days ago now I failed to properly close 2 doors, which led to my dogs getting into the coop and attacking one of the birds and terrifying all 3 of them. And at that point I thought that maybe Big Betty had been plucked as opposed to injured, as like in terms of puncturing the skin, or obviously I can't tell with internal injuries, but I was hopeful that maybe she would survive, although they seemed very, very rattled, so I wouldn't have been surprised at all if they did not make it. Mercifully, they have all made it. Obviously, we're only 5 days out from the dog attack, so things could still happen with shock, delayed shock, and nobody's very happy. The puppies are very unhappy because they have not been allowed free roaming of the yard since the chickens arrived, and they have not been allowed unsupervised unleash time again since the chickens arrived, but much tighter security and everything since the attack, and they're not very happy about it and they're getting frustrated, but I'm tried to explain that there are consequences to criminal activity, and they don't understand because they are dogs and because they're not on board with the punishment. So yeah, the dogs are not very happy. I'm not very happy because my poor little chickens are traumatized. The poor little chickens are feeling very traumatized. They mostly spend their entire day inside, so there's a couple of jobs that I have prioritized doing to try and make them more comfortable as they hide out and hopefully decompress. And one of that was changing the perch material that I had put in the hutch. Everyone had let me know that it was too narrow and that they would end up with foot damage, and I feel very strongly about the appropriate shoes in humans, so I guess this is kind of the equivalent in chickens. So I bought the biggest dowel I could find because every other piece of wood that I could get access to was treated pine or treated some way and just didn't really seem appropriate. So I will show you guys what that looked like. I've also worked on some outdoor perching areas, which I plan to continue to work on when I get more sticks, and I want to have it more layered heights, but it's a start, and at this point the chickens don't even know that that exists because they're not coming out really looking around. When they do come out, they come out and have a snack. They were very pleased when I brought them some curl grubs the other day, but subsequently they've mostly been hiding out inside, although they will sometimes come out to this area here and sit and rest in the sun in the grass clippings, which is very sweet to see, but they really have kind of huddled together and hunkered down together. So yeah, it's not been great, but at least everyone's alive, even if everybody's not very happy. Hopefully they will be able to decompress a little bit more over the next few days. This afternoon we are off to Sydney. I've got to have another surgical procedure before I head back to work, and I head back to work next week, which should be a lot of fun because I have some patients that don't know, who knew I was pregnant, who don't know that Ollie was stillborn. So that should make for some very awkward conversations. And I'm sure I'll have a lot of patients who want to talk about what happened, and it's going to be tiring and very, very emotional. So even though my butt is currently getting wet by sitting on the wet grass, I am just wanting to get outside and do a little bit of gardening before we head off to Sydney, even though I've got a ton of stuff to do inside, but whatever. So the last couple of days I've mostly been trying to coax the chickens out of the house or give them heaps of space or catch curl grubs for them. And we also had a visitor from Canada, so I haven't really been in the garden that much. So I feel like I just need to do a little bit before I go, and obviously have more fun in Sydney having a surgical procedure tomorrow morning. So what I'm doing here is planting snow peas, I think, snow peas. And I wasn't planning on planting them here because I obviously wanted to maximize the sun in this area, and I've talked about how difficult the sun is in this garden in winter. However, I really think that even with the mesh fence that we put up as a quick temporary solution, which I actually think I'm going to sacrifice my Rio archways that I was going to replace the Tromboncino archway with, and I'm going to turn them into fences. Because I swear Birdie was looking at this like, yeah, I can get under that, no problem. I decided that a visual barrier is probably more important for the chickens at this point, and I have these snow peas that are ready to go, and snow peas are chicken friendly. I have a ton of sweet peas that I wanted to put up here, but apparently sweet peas are no good for chickens, so probably best to give them what they actually can at least enjoy if it grows through in there. But really, I just want to give them a bit of a visual block from the dogs. So I've just back planted the zinnias, which probably only have really a couple of weeks to live before it gets too cold for them, and back planted them with the snow peas. So hopefully by the time the zinnias fade out, even though the zinnias are not going to put on a lot of bulk in the next couple of weeks, although we do have a very hot day scheduled for next week, so you never know, at least the snow peas will start climbing up and covering this area and hopefully get settled in. We do have some rain forecast, like quite a bit of rain forecast over the Easter long weekend, which is unfortunate because the ground is already still pretty moist, and my big beautiful buddleia that has produced all year and done so well is looking like it might die. But you know, it is what it is. So I'm going to keep planting snow peas, and we're going to just take them all the way around the edge of the coop as far as we can go with what garden beds we have established at this point. This garden bed was the pineapple tomato bed, but something weird happened with them, and I think there's a disease in the soil. So I want to leave it maybe like 1 to 2 seasons before I start planting food in this area again. The zinnias have obviously done fine. The sunflowers here are fine. So I'm just going to plant some flowers in this bed, and hopefully it will put on a good show either over winter, which seems unlikely, although we're forecast to have quite a warm winter, which I guess will be nice. Or if not, hopefully we'll get a beautiful show in spring. But I just don't want to plant any food in here and waste the seedlings if there is a soil disease. I'll let the flowers deal with that for now. So I'm just going to cut these lime green zinnias back just so I can get through here a little bit easier. There's also a ton of seeds, so every so often I just take some off and chuck them in. But the chickens, when they were coming out and about and enjoying the world more, they were actually enjoying digging around in the zinnias I put in there. So I will put these in there, and they can, maybe if they come out while we're in Sydney, have a little scratch around in the zinnias. Poor little chickens. I've got some green feast peas here, which I will leave for either one of the other beds or the other side of the chicken coop once I create the garden bed. But I've also got some false Queen Anne's lace seedlings here and some Tom Thumb black nasturtium seedlings. So we'll pop them in and hopefully they will do well. I think I might also go and grab some Love is a Mist seedlings to pop in here. The Love is a Mist flower has a really beautiful seed head, like really gorgeous and ornate looking, and I'd love to be able to dry some and include them possibly in a wreath. I don't know if they would crumble too much, but it'd be nice to include them in. I really want to get some of my gomphrenias and globe amaranth dried, but I don't really have time to deal with that today because I really want to make a spring wreath of all the different colours of straw flowers, the gomphrena, the amaranth, and ideally the Love is a Mist seed heads. But if not, maybe I could save some smaller ones for some epoxy resin art. But we'll see how we go and just get this bed fertilised and planted up. We only had enough room for the Queen Anne's lace and the two Tom Thumbs, but what I thought I would do is make use of the climbing structure here, and we'll put the sweet peas that desperately need to get into the ground. These are a My Navy variety. These I originally planted to replace the ones that I'd originally planted in the main archway that goes down the middle of the garden, and they got kind of melted on a 40-degree day, and then they've been subsequently drowned out by the straw flowers and the amaranth that we planted there and the statice that we planted there. But I think these are just going to be too short now to actually access any sun, so we'll put them somewhere else and make use of them, and hopefully we get a beautiful flower show just here. One of the reasons I have been trying so hard to plant heaps and heaps of sweet peas this year is because I want to use them in the epoxy resin work that I'm doing, which I have flowers that have been out of the silica gel crystals for ages, needing to get into the epoxy resin, so I really need to get onto that, but there's just only so many hours in the day, and the chickens kind of took priority over everything else for a good solid 2 weeks, and who knows how much longer now that they're recovering from a disaster. But I really want to have a beautiful show of sweet peas. I just love sweet peas, and I think they're spectacular, and I have never really successfully grown more than 1 or 2 seedlings. They either get drowned, they get melted, they fail to thrive for whatever reason, or most commonly the seeds, as I plant them, get eaten by critters in the local area. And so I've made a real point of, number one, sowing more than I need, because I know that my chances of actually getting some are slim to none, which has worked excessively in my favor this year. But I've also really worked a lot on protecting the seeds for quite a long time after I've sown them this year, which really has only been possible because I haven't been at work. So you make the most of a situation, I guess. There we go. Beautiful. So I'm still going to need to protect these from the stupid blackbirds because they're still doing the rounds. So what I'll do is water, mulch, and then, like we have been doing in every other bed, chicken wire. Even though this has been a really quick video, that's really all we have time for because, as I said, I've got to go to Sydney. I just didn't want to leave you guys hanging wondering how the chickens were, especially given that last time I had this same surgical procedure I'm having again tomorrow, it was about 6 weeks ago, and I felt rough for a week. So I want to give myself a little bit of a chance to rest up and not feel like I have to come straight home and get back into filming. But I did want you guys to know that I want to say that the Bettys are all right, but the Bettys are alive. So yeah, but The other thing I just wanted to quickly show you before I head inside to pack everything up and get going is that the garlic we planted less than a week ago has already started to emerge, mostly on this bed because this was the first bed we planted, and the one we planted a day or so later has started to emerge. But I only just noticed this while we're out. There's like a good 10 or 15 little stems starting to emerge from underneath the mulch, which is really great to see. I'm really happy that we've got some garlic emerging because I feel like I'm very, very behind on my cool season crops, both because the summer season crops just haven't finished. So when we get back from Sydney and when I'm feeling up to it, we are taking out the pumpkins, we are taking out all the tomatoes, and we are planting up all the broccolis because all the ones I've planted so far are not doing well. And we need to move into the next season of planting. So we've got a ton of work to do when I get back. I just hope I don't feel as rough as I did last time. Anyway, I hope you guys have enjoyed this update and enjoyed hearing that the Bettys are semi-okay. And hopefully I'll see you again in the next video. Thanks so much for watching.